Outstanding, the ultimate accolade for teachers. We challenge secondary English teacher David Pollicut to go from good to outstanding. A top inspector will observe one lesson. 2 experts will fine-tune his practice and beef up his presentation. He then gets 2 weeks to take on the advice before the inspector comes back for the final verdict.
I think that you should always remember what your strengths are as a teacher and play to them. And I think today possibly I forgot that.
Sydney Russell School is a large mixed comprehensive in Dagenham, East London. David Pollicut is an English teacher in his 3rd year of teaching.
I have got a passion for literature and I do like to see students' reaction for the first time when they come across something new and the penny drops and they realise there's more out there than what they previously thought.
The English department rates his teaching as good.
8FS. They're hard-working, they're fun.
Yeah, I must say, darling, I couldn't possibly lend you any more than £5,000.
Yeah, I must say, darling, I couldn't possibly lend you any more than £5,000.
I enjoy his lessons because he makes them fun. He likes taking the mickey out of people sometimes, which is very funny.
A bit more like a Victorian gentleman.
David will focus the challenge on his Year 8s.
His personality in the classroom is definitely a strength. His subject knowledge is really strong. I think he does need to think about how he gets all students involved in the lesson.
I'd like to bring more things like active techniques and bona fide discussion to the class. I think, like lots of teachers, I tend to speak too much.
So you need to have someone speaking in the next sentence you write. It could be
Well, he does explain quite a lot to you, and if you don't understand, he will go over it and over it again.
If you don't understand, he's not the kind of person that you'd be afraid to ask.
As trite as it sounds, I think you have to want them to do well. It's not actually about you as a teacher, it's more about them. Obviously, I like to think that I've got the potential to become outstanding, and hopefully this process will get me somewhere closer to that nirvana.
It's the morning of David's observation. With hundreds of inspections under her belt, School Inspector Claire Gillies leads inspection teams up and down the country. She certainly knows an outstanding lesson when she sees one.
I'm at Sydney Russell School to watch David Pollicut with his Year 8 English class. This is a higher ability group.
David has 60 minutes to impress our inspector, continuing their unit on great expectations.
Right, what you have in front of you should have a number on it and it says I can at the start. What I'd like you to do first of all, just for 2 minutes, is to read through these success criteria and actually write a number down next to each one, what you think you are good at doing, what you are not so good at doing.
The thrust is much more now on making a judgment about the learning in the sort of pupil's eyes and sensing, are they learning enough, are they moving forward, and are they genuinely interested?
The last lesson that we had, we were looking at this character. Now, you are going to be putting yourself in the position of Miss Havisham. You are going to be portraying Miss Havisham yourselves. Just to give you a little idea then, this is the sort of thing that I would do. No! I hate you. I hate you as well, I'm jealous of you. You know why? No. Because you're going to find someone you love, aren't you?
He's funny, just the things he comes out with. He's just so random sometimes. But it's important because, like, if you don't, then you're just going to sit there and go, I don't want to go to his lesson, just not enjoy what he does.
Right. Write some ideas behind about the kind of things you're going to say, the kind of things you're going to do. Remember, you will have to talk about all these things on this checklist. Those of you with number 1 on them are going to be doing Havisham the poem. Those of you number 2, Miss Havisham in the extract. At 25-2, we'll start seeing some of these being performed. Can't wait. So you've got the extract speaking. So you've got to think about, first thing you've got to think about is the things that she says, okay, the language that she uses.
What have you been picking out in yours particularly?
Some of the papers was a bit confusing. It was like quite a lot of papers and everything to understand.
Right, so what you've done here, the skill you've used there is that you've actually used embedded quotation. So that's excellent. You've also put that in your own words. So you've done an inference here and you've used a quotation.
The poem was quite complicated because you don't know what she's on about. The extract was really long and got quite boring in the beginning, so it was quite hard.
I do want to see some presentations. Jesse, you had Havisham? Or do you have the poem, so Havisham, yeah?
What's wrong with you? We're gonna get married! I love you.
Okay, yeah, well done, Jesse. Wow.
I thought it was pretty interesting to be Miss Havisham because you sort of got an idea of what she was about, and it was much more challenging than usual.
Very quickly answer the peer assessment form for what you think about Jesse's performance. Time to see one more? No? Okay, in which case, I'd like you to very quickly go back to the thing that you did at the start of the lesson, which is your success criteria.
It was good because it was complicated, because otherwise if it was easy then we'd just be bored.
So how did David get on?
David, thank you very much indeed for letting me share that Year 8 lesson. I really enjoyed it, and so did the pupils. It was quite clear. There was lots of laughter and lots of fun. To give them an example, of course, was just brilliant, to sort of sit and do a role play yourself, because it shows I'm prepared to make a fool of myself and be laughed at, and they really enjoyed that. And I think they got quite a lot of English out of it, perhaps not quite as much as you'd have wanted if you know, when you were reflecting at the beginning and the end. How did you feel it went from achieving what you wanted?
Limited, I would say, in terms of what I wanted.
Right,
I think
yes,
they were a little bit blinded by the amount of instructions that I could have simplified that.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, yes, a little bit simpler for Year 8 to cope with. From the bits I caught, your individual encouragement and your individual questions and your sort of trying to extend them all the time was super, you know, you really, but you had to do an awful lot of it because some of them, you've sensed, weren't quite clear what they were doing. So just to sort of go through the sort of specifics of the lesson in the sense of the English, I think the giving them 20 minutes to prepare for the presentation in itself was too long, especially in the light of the fact you were going to run out of time towards the end. Yeah. I thought having the two texts was making it more complicated than it needed to be. It might have been easier if we'd all been looking at the same one. And again, on the simplicity front, this was quite challenging, I think, for them to answer every question.
Sure.
Just a little more sort of simplicity would have actually meant they probably got more out of it because it would have just been a little bit more within their grasp.
Right.
With the first observation behind him, the inspector highlighted David's need to clarify his lesson objectives by having fewer, clearer instructions in order to reduce his input. Now it's time to bring on the experts. To boost David's progress, help comes from secondary English expert Sabrina Broadbent and voice and communications coach Ulrike Schulterbauchloh. They start by watching his lesson.
You were in her position.
No!
I wondered actually whether there was too much focus on performance. I don't think an awful lot of learning is happening anywhere when there's just performance.
I noticed a lot of hands in his pockets and so on. The vocal delivery is so emotional, more impact, more structured.
Answer the peer assessment form.
My emphasis is going to be assessment for learning, less assessment, more learning possibly, and how you tackle a great big book like Dickens. The start of that lesson, brilliantly calm and obviously positive. They have good experiences of lessons with you. And I just thought a way of getting all of you in the room focused on the learning and what it is you're going to learn, it would be to fill in the big blank space behind your head, which is empty, and put, the two objectives, just have them written up there so that, there they are, like a kind of banner.
Yeah.
And everything then leads on from that. Doing Dickens is always daunting, isn't it? Great big book, time constraints, different abilities, different experiences of reading. One of the things that you might do quite early on is make them kind of literary detectives, really. So list 5 things that suggest this novel was written 150 years ago. And there's a really good teaching aid here, which is the book. Okay, that's right. 5 things which tell us it was written 150 years ago. They might come up with, old language, archaic vocabulary. So what clues are there in the text that Dickens wrote his stories knowing they would often be read aloud? I mean, that's one thing, I think, to tackle the sense that, this is too difficult. And that is that actually it's almost like a script. So that kind of, throwing the gauntlet down at them and saying, right, bet you can't do that, there's the book, do some research. There's some props here which you might use in all kinds of ways. One thing you could do is set up the elements of the plot. They act as kind of prompts during the reading. I think that it makes them curious, and we want to keep the curiosity going rather than foregrounding the difficulty, which they will be anxious about. So you've got here a girl kept captive, a fortune lost, a man driven mad.
I mean, you can almost sort of make it sound like a soap opera, couldn't you? Or think about it as being in terms of a creative writing task as well.
I mean, I think they would run for that. Then over here we've got characters.
Would you put these up even before they've met the characters in some case?
Don't you? They might be curious. This is someone called Arthur Havisham. So you prediction work. Who might Arthur Havisham be? So it's like, you're not going to get them to read every word of this novel, but it's a way of, again, making them researchers. You're all researching this old text. We're trying to get through it and remain curious and make discoveries.
Yeah, just how do you come across?
I suppose you could say that it's like I don't really care.
Yeah? One is casual, looking quite approachable. On the other hand, don't care. Just notice, how does this look?
Position of my body is quite sort of aggressive, isn't it, I suppose? Like I'm sort of bearing down on people.
Towering over people.
Everything. Crazed, almost.
The other kids sit actually on the same level with you. Simply visibility.
Sort of, not all of them can see me. Quite removed from them, I suppose. I'm not really in their field of vision.
Yes.
What I would like you to do, please, folks, is to turn to your second sheet.
What I noticed watching the video is that you actually have a lot of talk. Yeah?
True.
So we will look how you can reduce this time and how can you make this more effective. Your voice, the resonance, the speed, your articulation is brilliant. But where you could definitely improve is the variety of it, because at the moment it is more grey, white, so it stays very much a little bit the same. What I like to encourage you is to use colors like green, yellow. And what I know, you have tremendous skills to add more colors. And if you think of this Havisham, which colors do you associate here?
I suppose mainly the black and the red ones.
Those two,
Beloved sweetheart bastard! Not a day since then haven't I wished him dead.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yes. Got the ideas. Can you feel how much energy you have?
Yeah.
Keep this energy, and we're now moving and using this energy how to give you instruction with a little bit of this kind of oomph. Good. Off you go. Bright colours.
So, what I would like you now all to do is to actually go away and to spend 10 minutes.
Sure. More.
10 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
Preparing your presentations on Miss Havisham.
Good. Did you notice you talk far less than when you take things in the more grey and white and you have to repeat yourself because they can't take it in?
I'll try and do more often.
With Sabrina, she had so many ideas that they're sort of coming out of my ears. I had almost abandoned the hope of being able to look at a whole novel in its entirety, thinking that it was too great. And she sort of made me reevaluate what my priorities are. And that's given me a lot of hope and excitement for trying to bring that into my lessons.